High school state championships is a fascinating topic. It's one of the few things left that's a really big deal in state, but doesn't get really any national attention. I took the time to find out where all 50 states host their state final for football, and come to find out, it varies a lot. Hopefully from this video, you can decide if your state is doing a good job or doing a bad job. If you're new here, I go by the name of GFed. I've been to about 500-ish stadiums on this page and talk about even more. If that's something you're into, go drop a sub and let's get into the video. We're going to organize this by state and do it roughly in the order of capacity. A bunch of states use multiple sites, but if that's the case, we're going to use the biggest stadium actively in rotation. We'll tier these up by setup too, but we got to wait for the end of the video for that. I think we need the full context of every state to really know where things land. Starting way up in the Northeast, unsurprisingly, this is the worst region in the country venue-wise. With smaller states, there's going to be a lot less options of where to play. Vermont is one of two states that doesn't have D1 football. They play their state finals at South Burlington High School. This is far from the last state that hosted a high school, though. The internet tells me this place holds 1,500 people and is pretty believable with only one sideline. New Hampshire is next, who has an albeit small but still Division I FCS stadium. However, they choose to not play in it in favor of Bank of New Hampshire Stadium in Laconia, that I believe is a sponsored high school stadium. Don't see that every day. This was the hardest stadium to find online. I would not have found it at all if it wasn't for this legend taking a picture right in front of the entrance, or this broadcast on Instagram from a soccer game. Alaska is the other state with no D1 football, playing their state finals at Wasilla High School and Colony High School. The stadiums are allegedly bigger than Vermont and New Hampshire's, but they're largely the same. After our Arctic excursion, we tackled the rest of the less populated Northeast states, starting with Rhode Island, who plays at Cranston Stadium just south of Providence. Not much, but could be doing worse for a 5,000 seat high school field. Maine plays their state final at Fitzpatrick Stadium. It still is a high school stadium, but it's also home to the Portland Heart of Pines, a USL League One team, basically a AA team for the MLS. So technically, I think this is our first pro venue to host, even though it doesn't look like one at all. The next ring of stadiums is a small step up from what we've seen so far, but I think it's actually a worse setup because all these states have options to do better. Kansas hosts their football final at Division II Emporia State. They've hosted at Kansas and Kansas State before, but it hasn't happened since 2018. Oregon hosts at Portland State, very Pacific Northwest of them to have an awning, but that will never compensate for how bad a stadium extending directly into another field looks. But the most egregious waste of resources has to be in Pennsylvania, where the 5th largest state in the country is using Cumberland High School's field to host their state championship in front of 8,000 people. There is some sound reasoning to these decisions. A lot of states like to have their state finals at a geographical center, but even with that considered, Kansas State is about as centrally located as Emporia State. An hour or an hour and a half drive to Oregon or Oregon State isn't that bad to play at a way better stadium. And admittedly, Pennsylvania is not set up well at all to have a centrally located stadium, but there has to be some better option alternating between the east side of the state and the west side of the state than what's currently going on. I should say too, these alternatives are just looking out for the best fan and player experience. I know there's a lot that goes behind the scenes to get these stadium deals done, but if other states are doing something, I'm going to operate under the assumption that every state could figure it out if they wanted to. Next is a few more not as small, but still pretty small states. Connecticut's main host site right now is Central Connecticut State's Arute Field. I think I'm pronouncing that right. There's a ton of information to digest in this video. I'm going to get some stuff wrong. UConn has been the host pretty often and as recently as 2023, but CCSU is what they're rolling with now, along with Veterans Memorial Stadium and the Coast Guard's field. That is correct. A lot of people do not know there is a Forest Service Academy with a college football team, but now you do. Hawaii State Final has moved just like the football team, formerly at Aloha Stadium, now at TC Ching Athletic Complex on campus. Some wonky stuff going on, but hosting at the flagship state school is the most textbook way to host, and we're going to see a lot more of that coming up. Surprisingly, Pennsylvania is not the only state whose state final venue is 40 spots lower than the state's population. California also fits that mold. They use 3 different venues at Long Beach City College, Fullerton Union HSD Stadium, and Saddleback College. If we could even call this a state final, California actually has a bowl system with a selection committee and everything. That committee breaks teams down into sectionals every single year based on their performance from that year, and eventually that boils down into these bowl games that are NorCal schools versus SoCal schools. It's some sicko stuff to get into if college football politics wasn't enough for you. California is also the last school using a high school stadium as their primary site. The next 3 states all use college stadiums, even though that college stadium is pretty far from the biggest in their state. Oklahoma plays at Chad Richardson Stadium, not Richardson, home of the Central Oklahoma Bronchos. not Broncos. It's the 7th largest D2 stadium in the country. Looks pretty up to date. It would be a great state final venue for like New Hampshire, but with Oklahoma and Oklahoma State right there, it is kind of weird. Illinois also chooses Illinois State's Hancock Stadium over U of I Stadium in Champaign, an hour away. Similar to Oklahoma, but Illinois State Stadium is scaled up a little bit compared to Central Oklahoma. And University of Illinois has way more history hosting state finals in Illinois. They hosted football until 2012 and still host basketball today. Lastly, Iowa is one more state that chooses their FCS stadium over the Power Conference stadiums. But it is Northern Iowa's Unidome. It's been hosted there forever. The place just rocks. I'm going to let it slide. Delaware is as textbook as it comes, hosted at University of Delaware. Perfect execution. Really no competition for that one. And West Virginia is at Laidley Field in Charleston, West Virginia. This was built in 1918, is the biggest D2 stadium in the country and bigger than 7 FBS stadiums. Really interesting place. North Dakota predictably plays their state finals at the Fargo Dome, but unpredictably is the only state that plays their football and basketball state finals in the same building. And South Dakota plays the South Dakota State's Dyke House Stadium for 11-man football, and University of South Dakota's Dakota Dome for 9-man football. That's popular in a lot of more isolated states with a bunch of small towns. Pretty sure Florida just gives their state finals away to whoever the highest bidder is. It's at FIU's Pitbull Stadium right now, which isn't bad in the grand scheme of the list, but when you think about all the places that it could be in Florida, it does kind of suck. And it's like that for basketball too. What are we doing playing at North Florida when there's 3 NBA arenas and 4 power conference basketball gyms in your state? Get it together. Tennessee hosts at University of Chattanooga's Finley Stadium. It's also been at Vanderbilt and Middle Tennessee for pretty long stretches. Tennessee is one of those states where it really makes no sense to have it anywhere but a centralized location. And Nashville probably isn't the best city to send bus loads of kids, so I get the move to Chattanooga too. Ohio hits a layup with an NFL Hall of Fame stadium in their state. The shoe would be sick. It makes a lot of sense with a centralized location, but I totally get not passing up probably the best neutral site stadium in the whole country. Virginia has a really inconsistent history hosting at a lot of different places, but as it is right now, the top divisions play at James Madison, just below that plays at Liberty, and just below that plays at Salem High School near Roanoke. Virginia and Virginia Tech have both been involved, but it's been a while. I don't think anyone expected Montana to have a bigger stadium hosting than Ohio, but they do. They go back and forth between Montana and Montana State. And then we have 5 straight group of 5 stadiums hosting, most of which are pretty self-explanatory. Wyoming hosted the only proper football stadium in the whole state on Wyoming's campus. Maryland's hosted at a handful of places, but Navy has gotten the most run as of late. This is also the right call, not just on Navy being like a good G5 stadium type beat. Straight up, Navy Stadium is better than Maryland's. Idaho hosts at Boise State. Some people might want this at the Kibbe Dome, but when you see where that's at in the state, that's never happening. And New Mexico has a really interesting model where they have an association that assigns the state championship based on geographic fit for the teams playing. With how the state's population is spread out, it usually ends up at University of New Mexico anyways, but it has been at New Mexico State before, or just a random high school. Colorado plays at Colorado State's Canvas Stadium. Some people might expect this to be in Boulder at Mile High, but Canvas is actually a very highly regarded Group of 5 stadium. It gets used as a template for new stadiums all the time. Speaking of those templates, one of them might just be UAB's Protective Stadium in Birmingham. This opened just a couple years after Colorado State's and looks pretty similar to me. Alabama's had their state final in Birmingham forever, just like every other major thing in the state. It's been at Alabama and Auburn before, but that's mostly just as a placeholder while this current stadium got built or the old one got renovated. New York plays at Syracuse. Like Maryland, they could have went the military academy route and played at Army, but New York City doesn't play in these state championships. As a matter of fact, NYC just doesn't play high school football at all. A stain on American culture, if you ask me. If you couldn't already tell by making it to the Carrier Dome, everything at this point is going to be at least Power Conference Stadium level. We'll speed this up since most of those stadiums are relevant enough to speak for themselves, but here's the list anyways. Utah hosts at either Utah's Rice-Eccles Stadium or BYU's Lavelle Edwards Stadium every single year. Arizona does the same thing with Arizona and Arizona State. Like Alabama, Arkansas's big southern city that hosts everything is Little Rock, and their War Memorial Stadium is the most common host. This is also the biggest primary site, not home to a college or NFL team. North Carolina rotates every year between NC State, UNC, and Wake Forest. Mississippi rotates between Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Southern Miss. Kentucky's been at UK's Kroger Field lately, but has also had long stints at Western Kentucky and Louisville. And since the beginning of time, Missouri has played their state championship at Mizzou. Nevada, of all places, is the first of 8 states to host at an NFL stadium. Just like UNLV, they moved from Sam Boyd Stadium to Allegiant Stadium when it was built. And now with only 14 spots left, a lot of those spots are going to be NFL stadiums. Starting with Michigan, the Lions have hosted this forever. Is at Ford Field right now, is at the Pontiac Silverdome before that. Massachusetts plays at the Patriots Gillette Stadium. This is the state I'm actually surprised plays at their NFL stadium with how small the state is and how many other options they have. Minnesota plays at the Vikings US Bank Stadium. Like Michigan, the cold states are going to play inside when they have the chance. Indiana plays at Lucas Oil Stadium for the same reason. Opposite of Minnesota, Washington actually plays in the College Stadium in their biggest city, going with Husky Stadium and not the Seahawks Stadium. Georgia is at the Falcon Stadium. New Orleans is at the Superdome. UGA was a primary host a while back, and LSU was a primary host a while back. But like all the other states with NFL domes, I think they're going to hold these down as permanent locations. One state over from Georgia, Williams-Brice Stadium at USC is a place most commonly associated with the state final in South Carolina. They used to run a rotational program, but they haven't in about 15 years. Wisconsin has played at Camp Randall forever. Their only major state school in the capital. Might be the easiest choice on the list. Texas famously hosts the Texas High School Football State Championship at Jerry's World. But not everything is bigger in Texas, because there is still 2 more states with bigger sites that are a lot smaller than Texas. New Jersey plays their public high school state championship at MetLife Stadium. I make that public high school distinction because New Jersey has their own private school division that they host at Rutgers too. This is another like Massachusetts that almost feels too big. I don't believe New Jersey public schools can fill even 1/10 of MetLife, but it's cool for the kids. What do I know? That leaves just one more state. I don't need more detail where it is. You already know. Nebraska. I could say this feels too big too, but they did sell it out for a volleyball game, so you never know. That's all 50. Like we said at the top, we got to rank these now, and I think they boil down into 5 tiers. 27 of these are perfect. I want to see kids have the chance to go play on their favorite team's field. I want fans to have the chance to go to that stadium without the cost of a regular ticket. And I want the stadiums to be nice enough for this to feel like a big deal. All 27 of these states pass that with flying colors. Some people think the stadium should fit the size of the crowd. I understand that line of thinking, but I don't think there's that many stadiums that are really cool to play at and fit the size of the crowd. So you got to take one or the other, and I think having a cool place matters more. The next 8 states I just don't have that much of an opinion on. Is there better places to play in-state? Maybe, but is the current location bad enough that they really need to change it? Probably not. Alabama, Arkansas, and Illinois are in a rare tier where the stadium's fine, but there's objectively a better option. Once Alabama moved out of Legion Stadium and lost the history, they should have moved to a rotational like Mississippi has. Arkansas has enough of their population in Northwest Arkansas right now, they might as well just have it at Arkansas Stadium. And I just don't think Illinois should have left U of I, especially with the rise of their football program and the renovations come in. Once again, the current stadiums they have are fine, it's just a slight preference. That leaves just 12 states with legitimately bad venues. 6 of them is because of resources, they don't have a choice. But these last 6, somebody's got to get in here and fix something. You're making your state look bad. There's no reason Pennsylvania can't alternate between the Link and Acrisure Stadium, or even Franklin Field and Penn State if they don't want to use NFL stadiums. Kansas, Oregon, and Oklahoma should all permanently be at one of their FBS schools. Camping World Stadium in Orlando makes the most sense to me for Florida, but some rotational, including Florida and Florida State, could be cool too. In California, man, there is a million ways to go with this. Those current stadiums just are not it. At the very least, if we want to keep this in the middle between NorCal and SoCal, we could have done Fresno State. Subway, see you next time.